has been a long off-season for one-up competition, but 2025 is here, and we are ready to bring you some racing action like you have not seen before. And this is something new for one-up competition, the inaugural running of One-Up Global Thunder. Every year we tour the world in search of a champion, but here we take it to a whole new level because once a year we go to a complete foreign location for one-up stock cars and turn them loose in front of the locals to draw them in to our great series. And what better place to hold the inaugural event than here in Japan? We've raced here before for points and for pride. Here, it's a whole new story. We're at the legendary Suzuka International Racing Course, where we race on the East Circuit for 35 laps here today. A wicked tour around the first sector of the lap before turning right back onto the main straightaway to do it all over again for 35 laps here today. Now, this is normally the time in the broadcast where I'd introduce James Ellison or Ryan Griffin to the broadcast, since they were the ones doing our co-commentary last year. But both of them have moved on to the Superstar Series full-time and are in this race themselves, so they obviously can't do it this year. So joining me for the very first time in the One-Up broadcast booth is Jacob Craigo for the first time today. Fantastic to have you with us, and what better place to have your first race in the booth than here at Suzuka. It's tight, it's technical, but it's fast in the right places. These guys are going to have their work cut out for them.
And thank you for having me. It's a beautiful area here in Suzuka, a nice twisty course that these drivers will have to navigate. I know the rundown in turn one is one of my favorite areas on this track. You know, you got that downhill front straightaway down into a tightening radiate corner for the first two corners, and it's a thrill to get around there.
Absolutely, and you gotta keep in mind, right after that is a series of lefts, rights, never-ending S's that seems to go on forever until you make that long right-hand corner back onto the main straightaway for you to do it all over again. But we've brought some of One-Up's finest here today to make it all happen in front of these great fans, and we're ready to get you underway for 35 laps to kick off the 2025 season. As we can now bring you the starting lineup for today's exhibition, Mark Davey has changed teams over the offseason, but that sure hasn't slowed him down. He's brought his own team to One-Up competition for the first time, and his original Autosport number 11 Chevrolet has found itself on pole position. Shouldn't come as much of a surprise. He is a whiz when it comes to road course racing in this series. Patrick Smith, back for another year with Fingai Saitomi, lines up alongside him on row 1. Emma Kruger and 2023 champion Devin Fair make up row 2, with J.D. Martin completing the top 5. Others to keep an eye on in the starting field. We have Christian Vargas, a two-time champion of the series. He starts 6th. Cale Tescar Jr. got a new opportunity at Revolution Racing. He's 7th. Defending series champion Jeffrey Fingai completes the top 10. We've got a whole bunch of rookies in the field. We'll talk more about them later. And we've got a local in the field from the Nitro National Series. Nagatsugu Kanalka makes his Superstar Series debut in the Game Breaker Racing number 7. He starts in 17th today. So we've got a lot of stories to keep our eye on, but once that green flag drops and the field rolls off into turn 1, it's back to business as usual, isn't it?
It certainly is. And like you mentioned, Griffin and Ellison are in the field for today. They start 18th and 19th deep in the field today. It's going to be difficult for them to make their way up the field, but it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to do it, if they can do it. And of course, you also got Fingai, defending champion, starting in 10th. He's going to be starting alongside Lane Sanders. And those are two of some of the best drivers in the field, I believe. So it's going to be an interesting race today. And
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very understandable because we've got 20 drivers all in search of the first win of 2025, and with passing being a little more difficult here than at some other tracks we go to, the launch into turn 1 is going to be critical for how your race is going to go today. So with that being said, we've got 35 laps in front of us, 20 drivers on the grid. We're ready to bring you that action now. For the first time in 2025, the One-Up Superstar Series takes to the track for Global Thunder at Suzuka, and the green flag is mere moments away from getting this great race underway once again to kick off a new year. Stay tuned, not going to want to miss a second of what's to come today. Getting ready for something new here in One-Up competition. Mark Davey and Patrick Smith getting ready to usher in a new era. The field's starting to accelerate. The green flag is out, and for 35 laps, One-Up's finest take on Suzuka. Pretty even start for the front two. They're going to send it off into turn one. Patrick Smith might have the advantage, though, as they brake hard for the tight right-hander of turns 1 and 2. Davies got a wider line, though. They're still going to be side by side as we approach the S's for the start of the first lap.
Yeah, and with as winding as the S's are, that advantage, depending on which line you are, is going to switch from corner to corner. Although the 22 is able to take the spot away, and Patrick will lead here, heading through the middle of the S's.
And that it's not just him either. Devin Fair, the 2023 champion, looking to kickstart his 2025 season off with a bang. He's now trying to fight his way past Mark Davies. So it looks like being on that inside line at the start is going to pay dividends for the people who started there. They're going to be side by side for second out of the final corner. But Patrick Smith, with a comfortable advantage out front, he will lead the opening lap. And look at how close the 20 cars still are, even after one lap at speed.
Yep, and it looks like Emma Kruger was able to fall in line in fourth there, and looks like Mark Davies going to hold off. Well, no, never mind. Looks like Fair's coming back at him very briefly off of the second corner there as they head back into the S's for the second time today. And Fair clears?
Not quite.
Not quite clears Mark Davies there.
And you got to keep in mind, these two are some of the best road racers OneUp has to offer. They've both won races on this discipline. Devin Fair, of course, got his first win in this series at Montreal a few years back, denying Henry Thomas a maiden win of his own back then. But now, coming out of the final quarter to complete the second lap, Davies settles in line behind Devin Fair. Now we'll see if that 51 has anything for the fast Red Bull Mustang of Patrick Smith, who has led both laps so far. His lead after 2 laps, 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, and depending on how quick that 51 is going to be underneath Devin Fair, depends on how quickly he can close that 0.8 gap. So we're now taking a look at the 54 Christian Vargas coming through the S's. He's right behind Emma Kruger right now. Both of them in Toyota Camrys. Going to see if they can catch up to the top 3 spots here.
Let's not forget, Christian Vargas has won the last 2 races in OneUp competition. He ended the season with back-to-back wins. J.D. Martin's got a new look for this year, as does Vargas. It's a bit weird seeing that 54 without the Hooters branding on it. They parted ways over the offseason. It's got a brand new look for this year, as does J.D. Martin in the Irish Spring Camaro. So they barrel down the front straightaway to start the third lap of action. Everybody's now in a tight train as they barrel it off in the turn 1, looking further back in the field. Martin trying to hold off Julio Cesar with something to prove this season. Missed out on Rookie of the Year and the playoffs, trying to make something happen. And how about Cale Tescar Jr.? He's got a breath of fresh air at Revolution Racing, doing a solid job hanging in there in 8th place.
Yep, and with a local sponsor by the looks of things on here, if I'm not mistaken.
Tescar's got a lot of people in the grandstand hoping to see him do well, and he is doing well. Started this race in 7th, lost 1 spot on the opening lap, but he's held steady in 8th, doing a strong job in his first race outing for his new team at Revolution Racing. He's 3rd of the 4 Revolution Camrys at the moment, ahead of teammate Zayden Davidson in the 4, who runs in 12th position as they roar down the front straightaway to complete or start a new lap, start lap 5, and it looks as though Devin Fair has started to close the gap on Patrick Smith. It's down to half a second between the 2 leaders.
Yep, basically halved the distance between him and Davey there, or not Davey, Smith, sorry.
This is going to be a very close race from now to the checkered flag. We still have 31 laps to go. A lot can still happen between now and the checkered. But it looks as though Patrick Smith has a good car and he's in clean air, which is always good, especially on a tight, twisty portion of the lap like those S's are. But Devin Fair is keeping in touch with him. That's pretty much the best he could hope for at this point, because that 22 is pretty dang quick.
Yeah, but you also have Mark Davey hanging on to Devin Fair as well, which is kind of causing Fair to play simultaneous offense and defense, which is not something you want to do, especially at a road course such as this, because it can make you be forced in. It can force you into a mistake very easily, which is not exactly ideal.
No, but look at Patrick Smith. He's pulled the gap out immediately. He put the fastest lap of the race on the board there. First one below 52 seconds on the leaderboard. So Patrick Smith doing what he needs to do, eking out his lead once again. It's up to 0.8 again. moving back now. Jeffrey Finguy in the 92. A new look for the 92. Same sponsor though. Ford Motorcraft, been a loyal partner of his. He is the defending series champion, and he would love nothing more than to kickstart his title defense with a strong run here at Suzuka. He's currently running 9th. That is a gain of 1 place since the start. So Finguy doing a really nice job in his first race as the defending series champion, but a couple cars behind him is his teammate Dylan Young, something we did not mention at the top of the show, that 29, the Universal Ford back there. This season in one-up competition will be his last, and he's got a lot of goals to bow out in style. He wants to win the Daytona 500. He wants to win his home race at Chicagoland, and he would love nothing more than to bow out of the one-up Superstar Series as a series champion. Still a lot of way to go in the season. This is only an exhibition to kickstart the year. He's currently in 11th place, doing okay in his first race of his farewell tour.
Yeah, and a lap ago, he was all over the back bumper of Lane Sanders there throughout the S's, but it looks like Lane was able to pull away at the beginning portion of this lap, and Lane got up to Finguy there briefly. Now it looks like out of the final corner, it looks like Young was able to almost take a look at Lane Sanders, but Sanders was able to get the drive off the corner there. So Dylan Young looking pretty racy early on as we see his side-by-side battle as they head down to turn 1. I believe that is the 9? Yes, it is the 9 and the 21.
Yep, James Silverfox in the 9, go back for his second season on the series, and a rookie he's battling with, Kev Shearer, the standout driver from the Nitro National Series last year, who is a former Truck Series champion. This is his first venture into the Superstar Series. He replaces Jake McMillan in that 21 for the full season. But Silverfox, has to be said, is doing a fantastic job. He started last, and he's already gained 5 spots since the opening lap. And here's the local driver who's probably going to get the most cheers out of anybody out of the grandstands here today. Nagatsugu Kanauka in this 7 car, the one-off appearance for Game Breaker Racing, going to contest the Nitro National schedule once again in the 7 car down there for Game Breaker. Posted an incredible win at Sonoma Raceway last year. And while I'm sure this is not the run this car and driver were hoping for, down in 18th place, to hold off some guys like James Ellison and Ryan Griffin at the back of the field on your first time in a Superstar car, gotta be something to talk about.
Yeah, not the day he was probably wanting to have. Oh, as he gets a bit slidier than the S's, that's going to allow Griffin to get a run at him in the middle of the S's here. Looks like he's going to hold off Griffin. Maybe no. Griffin's going to have the line here as they head into the second half of the S's. So not the day that Kananaka was looking to have.
No, but who says you can't?
Now,
yeah, I was going to say, who says you can't make a pass on a road course? Look at Ryan Griffin go round the outside in the S's to make his way back around the 7, knock Kanauka down to 19th ahead of James Ellison, who brings up the rear of the train. But back at the front of the field, Patrick Smith put in another fast lap of 51.80 last time by. That is the fastest lap we have seen all day. And he is currently with an almost second lead over Devin Fair. You gotta wonder if either Devin's used his stuff up too early or if he's saving something for the end of this race when Patrick might have used his stuff up.
Yeah, you noticed, I believe it was the top 4 or 5 guys were actually down into the 51s there for the fastest laps. But yeah, I believe Fair might be saving his stuff here. We'll have to see as this race progresses. We're already coming to start lap 11 out of 35, so very much a sprint race for one-up in terms of usual race length, but that shouldn't really matter in the long run here, as a Fair we see coming out of corner 2. Ooh, looks like the 22 might have gone into the grass a little bit.
He definitely caught some curb. He definitely caught some curb on the exit. You don't want that here. You can afford to get away with it, but you can't do it too often. Because you notice on the last lap, Devin Fair took 2/10 out of Patrick Smith's lead. So that mistake might cost him a little more. We'll see when they cross the line again. But Mark Davey is hanging on in 3rd. He's fallen a little ways off of Devin Fair a little bit, but honestly, when you consider that this is Original Autosport's first race as an organization, and for Mark Davey to have started on pole, to still be running 3rd ahead of some well-established teams, not a bad debut race at all.
Pretty much well said there, as looks like Fair is now just under 6/10 behind Patrick Smith now. So that mistake didn't really cost Patrick all that much, but
Can't afford to
Still, you
have it
can't
happen
make too
again.
many of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Patrick's, I think, trying to play it a little conservative right now. He's got the lead, and he's led all 11 laps of this race so far at a track where we've only really seen one or two overtakes after the opening lap. So, it's not the easiest thing in the world here, and he knows that. He's got to play it smart. He's got the lead, but Devon Fair is within striking distance. He can't afford too many mistakes. And as they make their way onto the front straightaway once again, we'll see what the gap is at the line, but Patrick Smith will lead his 12th lap of the day. We'll see if it grows. We'll see if it shrinks, because it looks like those two are well clear of Mark Davey already.
Yep, and you were mentioning can't afford to make any mistakes. It is very, very easy to drop a car here, especially off the curbs, like we saw Patrick Smith get on a couple laps ago. So you definitely don't want to do that too many times, otherwise you'll wind up in the barriers.
And going back to Mark Davey, who's starting to get a mirror full of that 70 of Emma Kruger, the Open Medicine Foundation Toyota Camry. She has had a rough 2024. She won twice, but had very poor consistency. Didn't make the playoffs, but that team is certainly one looking for redemption, and she is definitely having a strong run here today. Started in the top 5, currently running in the top 5. Strong start for the 70. We'll see if that carries over to Speed Weeks later this month.
Speaking of the top 5, I've noticed they've really pulled away from 6th on back here. As we see the cars shoot down back towards turn 1, you see the huge gap behind Vargas all the way back to the 66 of JD Martin.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed as well. JD's kind of the cork in the bottle in that train, because you look behind him, Julio Caesar is right there, Cale Tescar Jr. a few car lengths behind him, Jeffrey Finguy, Lane Sanders, they're all queuing up behind JD Martin, and I think that 66 is going to have to put up a really stout defense if he's going to hang on to that 6th place. He's putting some good laps in, but he's getting to be inconsistent, and that's starting to let the pack close up to him.
Yeah, and I believe I saw Caesar actually run a more tighter lane down the front straightaway, at least closer to the pit wall. So I don't know if he was trying to look to make a run on the 66 a couple laps ago. But he's currently right behind the 66 as we are focused on the 51 here. And it looks like he's about 8.5 tenths behind Smith.
And Mark Davies closing in as well. So this could be a 3-car battle before it's all said and done.
Yeah. We're coming to 20 laps to go at the line.
We're looking through the back of the field. Silver Fox is maintaining his position. He's gained a lot of places since the start. Zachary Fitzwater, a new look for him this year in the 59. He's going to run that for a few races this year. Ben McDonald looking for a good year this year. He is looking for a championship as well. The Dr. Pepper Camaro runs in 14th, just behind Fitzwater and behind Zayden Davidson. Dylan Young still stuck behind Lane Sanders, who occupies the final spot in the top 10 for the moment. But look at this. Like you said, they're all starting to queue up behind JD Martin here. Although, now that I'm looking at it, that 66 is starting to pull away from the 00 a little bit. That could be saving him here. He's now 8 tenths ahead.
Must have hurt us.
Oh, yeah. Well, they say that, but I never believe in it, but I may start in a moment. But back at the front of the field, Smith actually took a wider line through that corner than I thought, as did Mark Davey. Devon might be able to capitalize. However, a tighter line means a slower cornering speed, so it's a balance between fast cornering speed and the ideal racing line. So, interesting strategies being developed here as we come up on 19 laps of racing to go, closing in quickly on halfway, and the top 3 are starting to distance themselves from Emma Kruger and 4.
Of course, the fastest line isn't always the inside line, and that could come in true, especially for the first couple of corners where you do kind of want that outer line where you then want to cut into the tighter exit for turn 2. But yeah, it certainly will play a factor into this race depending on what line they run through the S's here, as you mentioned.
And remember, these cars can go the whole 35 laps on a single tank of fuel and a single set of tires, so they don't need to conserve anything. Well, they don't need to conserve fuel anyway. They might want to conserve tires for the late stages if they want to mount a charge on Patrick Smith, Devin Fair, Mark Davey, and so on. But as they make their way now for the final corner, like you said, top 5 are pretty much line astern for the final corner. Patrick Smith's actually started to pull a bigger gap now in the last few laps. He has now built up a second's advantage over Devin Fair. We'll see what it is at the line here. And, oh wow, yeah, he lost about half a second on that lap alone. So either he is seriously saving, or he might have burnt the good out of it.
Either that, or Patrick Smith saved all he needed and is now pulling away with what he saved.
Well, either way, either way, Devin Fair is losing a lot of time, and he can't afford to lose too much more because Mark Davey is closing up on him in a hurry. He is 0.8 of a second behind the 51. Took a tight line through that corner, going to try and gain on him through here. And this is the closest thing to a home race that Mark Davey's going to have all season, native Australian. So Davey's going to have a lot to do in these late stages of the race to try and get past Devin Fair. If Devin's off pace and has burnt his stuff up, then Mark Davey needs to make that pass. See, he lost another half a second on that lap. So he might have burnt his stuff up, in which case Mark Davey needs to pass the 51 in a hurry, see what he can do at the 22.
But crucially, Mark Davey only lost 0.3 Patrick Smith, meaning he gained a little bit on Fair there. But you also got to remember, you also have Kruger and you have Vargas there as well. So Devin Fair really needs to try and hold off the 11 here, because otherwise he might become an anchor and drop all the way back to the back edge of the top 5 here if he's not careful.
Well, we know Devin Fair is a very good racer. He's won a lot of races in this series, but he's might have burnt the stuff out of it. We'll see what happens. We're closing in on 16 laps of racing to go. We've passed the halfway point here. So, let's see. Smith leads at the line. Devin Fair didn't lose. He only lost about half a tenth, but he's still 2 seconds off the lead. But he is gapping Mark Davey. He's got about 9/10 ahead of the 11. So, and actually, now that I'm looking at the back of the shot, Davey looks to have a mirror full of the 70 of Kruger, so we've got a lot of battles in the top 5. These guys are gapping themselves quite nicely to JD Martin. They're now 2 seconds clear of the 66, so this might end up being a battle among the top 5 for top honors here today.
And call me crazy, but I think JD Martin might have actually closed in a little bit on Christian Vargas a little bit. Not enough to really make a huge visible dent in the time, or rather the gap between them, but that was they were like respectively 3.5 to 6.5 seconds. Now it is only down to about 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's due to Vargas losing time, because JD's consistently been about 6 seconds off Patrick Smith. Vargas has fallen back a bit, I think, is what you're noticing. But here is a tight battle for the final spot on the podium today. Emma Kruger and Mark Davey. These two are nose to tail, pushing each other through the S's. We'll see if Kruger wants to make a lunge into the final corner of the lap to set up a drag race down the front straight.
And yeah, as you mentioned, Kruger had a dismal 2024, so she's looking for redemption here. If she can get on the podium, that will kick off 2025 pretty nicely for her. So this move will be crucial if she's able to make it.
Didn't get alongside Davey on that corner, but she's still tucked up right behind him, and that could bode well for her as she sends it off in the turn. Though Davey's got some great straight line speed in that 11 car. Maybe he loses a little bit in the technical S's, but he gets the launch out of the final corner and powers away down the straight. That could be very beneficial in the late stages. I think they're trading blows here as we continue through lap 22. These two are keeping each other honest, but Patrick Smith still in control. He has led all 21 laps so far and does not look to be looking to change that anytime soon.
Yeah, and crucially, that straight line speed will also prevent Emma Kruger from diving it into turn 1 to get alongside the 11 through the opening couple of corners, which I argue would probably be the best passing opportunity here at the facility. That's that we've seen people pass in the S's, so who knows? We'll see here as we are on, I believe, 13 to go, if my math is correct.
We're getting closer to the end of this race, and actually we're getting we're noticing Devin Fair has cut the gap by about 0.4 of a second on that last lap. He might have been off the pace in the middle stages, but when we're getting closer to the end, he's starting to turn the wick up because he's now under 2 seconds behind Patrick Smith, starting to pull away from the Kruger-Davey battle. So at this point in time, I'd say Devin Fair is just conserving a bit as we look through the field, see where your favorite driver is running after 23 laps have been completed. However, you look at this. Devin Fair has got the run off the final corner. We'll see what he can do. We'll see how much of Patrick Smith's advantage he can cut out here.
Of course, the other question... Ooh, he actually lost a little bit of time there. Lost about 1/10, maybe half a tenth to Smith there on that previous lap. The other question is did he save too much, and is there enough time for him to catch Smith if he's able to?
That's another good point, because you can't save the entire race. You need to push at some point. Did Devin Fair hit the go button too late, I wonder, is I think what you're trying to say. But we have now 12 laps to go from Suzuka. Patrick Smith led every lap so far, and he's had a comfortable margin over Devin Fair pretty much the whole time. But Devin, I think, has saved enough to where he can start pushing now, and I would not be surprised if it became a battle between the 22 and the 51 for the rest of this race. We have 11 laps to go. See what the margin is of the line. Oh, yeah, he cut down 0.4 on that last lap.
Well, I was about to say I believe Smith might have this in the bag at this point, but I might have to eat those words here. We'll have to see here as we are on 11 to go at this point. Although... I don't know. It will be interesting to see if Fair can catch Smith here, as in the last just under a third of the race.
Well, it's the old adage of any kind of racing, isn't it? Catching a car is one story. Passing that car, a whole completely different story.
Very true.
So, Devin Fair might be able to catch Patrick Smith, but passing opportunities are scarce here. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the remaining 10 laps of this race. As we hit 10 to go, Patrick Smith out front. We'll see what the margin is between he and Fair at the line. Smith crosses the line. Fair crosses the line. Wow, they ran nearly identical lap times. Devin Fair only a single thousandth of a second slower than the 22.
Yeah, I believe they are now both pushing. I think they have about equal stuff at this point. As we see, Emma Kruger has lost a little bit of time to Mark Davey.
One thing to note as well that we missed while we were focused on the Fair-Smith battle, Kel Teskar Jr. did make his way past Julio Cesar in the 00 some time ago to move the 18 up into P7 in this race. Now he is going to try and draw a beat on J.D. Martin for 6th place. The 18 about a second further back up the road from the 66. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of the day. We're into the final 10 laps now. 9 to go. Devin Fair's deficit still stable at about 1.6 seconds.
Yep, and I believe J.D. Martin has also lost a little bit of time to Vargas as well. So whatever Martin had as well, he definitely used it up. So it will be interesting to see if Teskar can get around the 66.
Well, there's a lot of questions in the final 8 laps of this race. We are going to try to answer as many of them as we can for you. As it looks as though we've had an issue on track. Zachary Fitzwater is coming down the front straight. He's at the line now. James Ellison's already made his way through 1 and 2, and he's into the S's. Something has gone wrong with this 59. Look, he's 35 seconds off the lead of this race. His hopes for a good run today dashed. Something must have gone wrong under the hood of that 59.
We'll have to get official word of what went wrong with that number 59. We will answer that question hopefully soon, but that does move the 7 of the Kananoka. I probably butchered that name. I do apologize. Up another spot, so won't finish second to last. Third to last, unfortunately. Still not great, but
could be a lot worse. As Zachary Fitzwater now makes his way down the front straight, we're hearing he was dropping a little fluid on the racetrack. Something must have gone wrong on a few laps ago for that 59. They brought him in, patched up whatever needed to be patched up, and sent him back out. He is now about 18 seconds off James Ellison in 19th. Not the way the 59 of Fitzwater wanted to start his 2025 season. But back at the front of the field, we don't have the timing up on our screen right now, but I have a feeling that Devin Fair's advantage, or Patrick Smith's advantage over Devin Fair, has gone down that little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting to know if the 59 has been dropping fluid, and yeah, we see there officially Devin Fair has cut out another 4/10 out of the 22's lead. So yeah, Fair definitely is starting to turn up the afterburners now, although I don't think he has enough time to catch the 22 at this point. But as I was saying back to Fitzwater, whatever fluid was dropped on the racetrack obviously hasn't been enough to really affect things in terms of how these cars are handling. So
yeah, might have been able to get it off the racing line once he knew there was a problem, nurse it back to the pits, get something, put a patch on that hole, and send them back out. We now are into the final 6 laps of the race. Devin Fair's taken another 10th out of Patrick Smith's lead. It's down to 1.1 seconds. This could be a really tight battle on the final lap. We're going to find out in a little while, but it's going to be very close. And that's what we want to see, especially for the new season. It bodes well for the races to come, and it proves that we've got a lot of new contenders at the front.
Certainly.
It is going to be a blast for 2025, and we hope this race will make you want to tune in for the rest, because we've got a lot more in store for you than just this 35-lap exhibition out in Japan. But we're coming up to 5 laps to go in this race. Devin Fair is trying to close the gap on Patrick Smith, who has dominated this race. He's led every lap up to this point. We'll see what the gap is at the line between these two. Pretty much stabilized at 1.1 seconds. He needs to gain more time, lest he worry about Mark Davey, who's starting to close up on him now.
Yeah, at this point, Fair pretty much needs to eat 3/10 a lap, if I'm calculating it correctly, to get at least alongside the 22. He only cut down 1/100th of a second, which is not enough to really gain anything substantial.
No, it's not. I don't think that's going to be enough, but I think Devin might be on a push lap, a somewhat lukewarm lap, then another push lap. But that strategy would work great if this race were 40 laps. We only have 35 in this race. We're coming up on 4 laps of racing to go. Devin's starting to close the gap on Patrick Smith, but it might just be too little too late. However, Devin just took another 2/10 out of the lead.
Yeah. Pretty. Although, with it being 4 laps to go, the amount of time you need to cut down is growing more and more and more. So it'll be interesting to see if Fair can catch the 22. But as you said, catching one thing, passing another.
We've only seen a handful of passes this race. Ryan Griffin getting around Nagatsugu Kanalka earlier. Kev Shearer and James Silverfox having their own little battle further down the field. And of course, Cale Teskar Jr. getting past Julio Caesar as well. Coming up on 3 laps to go now, and Devin has really closed the gap on this lap. You can physically see the difference between these two. They're much closer on this lap than they were last time, although Patrick Smith got a huge launch out of the final corner. That could save him.
I don't know. That was 3/10 that time by
Needs to keep doing that if he's going to have any hope here.
Yeah, with 3 laps to go as well.
It's going to take a lot, but we've seen Devin Fair pull some heroic performances out of that 51 car ever since he took it over in mid-2022. So Devin Fair is looking to make some more history in one-up competition. He's a series champion. He's won a lot of races in his career, but this is something he's not done yet before. Win one of these non-points events that mean a lot, and we're coming to 2 laps to go. Look at the difference between these two through the final corner, although I think...
Yeah, they finally share a camera angle.
Yeah, I think Patrick Smith's got enough oomph out of that final corner to pull a little more of a gap. 2 laps to go at the line.
Yeah, he's got the drive off the corner. He actually put a little bit of time on Fair there.
Yeah,
so
this is going to be really close.
Saving? Was Smith maybe saving a little bit there those last few laps?
I don't know.
Letting Fair burn his stuff up?
This is going to be very close between Smith and Fair. And remember, we've seen at Suzuka and other racing disciplines, we've seen some chaotic moments at the end of these races. If these two have a moment on the final lap of this race, that could very well open the door for Mark Davey and Emma Kruger to have their own battle for the win. But we're coming to the white flag this time, and for Devin Fair, he's got a lot on the line, and he's got to make this one pass stick, and he's got to gain a lot of time to do it. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go.
Yeah, as they come across to the line and start the final lap as well, I believe Fair might have gotten the run off the final corner there. He eats another 2/10 off of Patrick Smith's time there.
Yeah,
as they come into the first couple of corners here. I don't think he's got enough, though. He ran a little wide there off of turn 2.
I think Devin caught the curb that Patrick Smith hit earlier in the race. That might have been all the difference Patrick needs as he weaves his way through the S's for the final time.
Yep, and of course you mentioned Red Bull aboard that number 22 car. They've had a lot of success in other racing disciplines, as you also have mentioned. So Red Bull not unfamiliar with the podium celebrations here as they come off the final corner.
It looks as though Devin Fair's hopes and efforts will be for naught as Patrick Smith christens Suzuka's one-up history with a grand flag-to-flag victory. Patrick Smith wins the inaugural one-up Global Thunder. Final margin of victory, about 9/10 of a second between himself and Devin Fair. What a flawless drive by Patrick Smith. His second win on a superstar car. This one won't count for the record books, but he'll certainly cherish it all the same. Devin Fair brings it home second. Mark Davey third. Original Autosport, great debut for them on the podium in their first start. Emma Kruger fourth, hounded that 11 all the way to the line. Still a fourth place effort, very solid. And Christian Vargas rounds out the top 5. You got to go 4 seconds from Christian Vargas all the way back to J.D. Martin in 6th. Cale Tescar Jr., his first drive for Revolution Racing, ends in 7th place. Julio Caesar 8th. Jeffrey Fingai and Lane Sanders round out the top 10, just ahead of Dylan Young in the 29. But a few more laps, Devin might have had him.
Yep. And that drive was very much simply lovely by Patrick Smith, to borrow a quote from another Red Bull driver.
However, we can't say everyone's race was smooth as silk, because Zachary Fitzwater had a little trouble in this race to bring it home in 20th place. We'll get you a replay of what happened to him in just a moment. Stay tuned for that, because we want to know what happened as much as you do what happened to the Foster's Dodge. So this was the lap right here that Fitzwater apparently started leaking something on the racetrack. Whatever it was that he was dropping on the racetrack, it was important to the performance of the race car, although he is able to hold his position up until he has to come in at the end of this lap.
It'll be interesting when he does have to slow down here when he realizes he has an issue.
I don't think he does realize it until the very last moment, because he's pushing to try and catch Zayden Davidson here in that 4 car. But you know, if this 59 team, it carries over from his last few years in the game. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck
there
at
he
all.
Goes.
Yeah, he knew at this point he had to come in, fix whatever needed to be fixed, pulls it into the pit lane. But like I said, if this 59 team didn't have any bad luck, they'd have no luck to speak of at all. And that looks like it's carrying over at least into this race, which is a heartbreak for Zachary Fitzwater. But we hope he'll come back strong for the Daytona 500 later this month. But with that being said, what a fantastic race we had at Suzuka. Wasn't a lot of overtaking, but we had some great battles along the way. Great stuff for Suzuka, and it makes me look forward to the shootout in a few weeks' time at the Daytona Beach Road Course. What say you?
Well, racing started on the Daytona Road Course for stock car racing in the United States. I can't wait to see how it is in modern day.
Well, we're going to find out. It was a great race last year. I'm sure it'll be a great race this year. So, from Jacob Crago and from myself as well, thanks so much for joining us for 1UP's inaugural Global Thunder at Suzuka. We'll see you again in a few weeks for Daytona 500 qualifying and the 1UP Superstar Shootout. A whole lot more racing coming your way in a few weeks' time. But for now, we say so long from Suzuka, and congratulations to Patrick Smith. His first win on a road course in a superstar car, his first win of 2025, gets it in a big way, leading every single lap of the race en route to a big win here in the Mie Prefecture in Suzuka, Japan.